Welcome back to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex and today we're taking a look at Beyond Blue on the Nintendo Switch, a deep sea diving adventure set in the near future. This one it's all about exploration, relaxation and taking part in a scientific expedition. The question though, is it gonna be worth your time? Well, hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we all do here, join our growing family and let's get started. It's a story and there's not a whole lot to it honestly, but this adventure puts you in the role of a deep sea explorer and scientist by the name of Mirai. She is out as part of a newly formed research team that uses new and experimental technology to basically see, hear and interact with the ocean around her, and obviously the huge amount of ocean life. It's really that though, a study of marine life and the impact we have and not much else. It's not deep as plots go, but more a show some appreciation to the wonder that is the ocean. While the word educational then can be, a word many of us want to avoid with our video games, I appreciated the fact it gives you snippets of information on the life you cross paths with, and even features a collection of unlockable videos that gives you real life examples and short form documentaries that are a few minutes at a time. I really liked its story though a lot. I've always been fascinated by the ocean. I dove from a young age personally, and it captured for me both the peacefulness of it all, but also then the misunderstood. This makes sense as well. It was made in conjunction with documentary makers including Blue Planet that have shared their love for the ocean for years. So gameplay on this is simple stuff. The game's set over a number of dives that progress the story forward. Alongside your research, you see you're conducting what is a live stream of sorts to your audience, which means there's this constant flow of dialogue between you, your team, but then also answering questions for what may be an audience. These are kind of coming in over the radio. That's where it's smart. It's not educational segments for the sake of it, but rather as part of the natural dialogue featured. The controls here though are simple. Move with the left stick, rotate with the right and interact with items and animals around you with a tap of the A button. You can also then call in a drone for a closer take on what you find with a tap of the Y button. Now in this zoomed in viewpoint, you'll rotate the camera to find your point of interest, such as let's say a tag identifying a whale ahead of you. Is this a new one or one you've crossed paths with before? Over the 8 contained dives though, the game will consistently provide you with just kind of new minor abilities. An early example, different types of lighting that may reveal new secrets. And while everything is handily marked with a checkpoint on screen, the game definitely encourages natural exploration as you scan to learn more and more. It's a game, as I said, of relaxation, as the ocean should be, not a moment of terror. Sharks, for an example, peacefully coexist alongside you. You are not dinner, even though popular media may be out to persuade you otherwise. In this one though, you have an advanced set of equipment, and that is where it kind of highlights its relaxed nature. You don't need to worry about things like oxygen levels or anything else. It is endless. It's made for you to enjoy your surroundings, not fear them. Even if I will say towards the end game, you do dive into the pitch black, and it knows here to give this just a tiny bit of tension. It's a super chill loop though. Find a buoy, a floating device in the ocean, and this will identify your next objective. All you need to do is rotate the camera here, and an on-screen notification kind of clues you in where to go next. Then you'll swim, you'll investigate, you can even speed up the swimming with a tap of the left stick if that speed gets a little bit too slow for you. Between dives then as well, you'll get time on your home base, which is a submarine. Here you can look at data collected from the local sea life. You can dive deeper into conversations with, let's say, family to add a little background to your character, or even discuss next steps with your teammates. You can also then watch back the documentary style videos I mentioned earlier. Really enjoyed them myself, but they are also accessible from the main menu as well. Issues wise then, it's a shame they didn't take advantage of, I guess, the Switch's strengths. I really do think, given its, slow pacing, the gyro controls could have been implemented to add this extra level of immersion. Also, the ocean is actually quite restrictive in the sense you can't just swim anywhere, but you will hit invisible walls when you go too far off track. An example then, I wanted to see what was above the ocean level. Often it was a few feet away. That wasn't an option though. That thing is, The game's kind of built around curiosity, but it didn't always facilitate that when I truly wanted to embrace it. While it's not a problem for me then also, it's a relatively short runtime. I did some extra exploration myself, but I was still wrapped up with things in around the 3-hour mark. That said, again though, look, I did not find everything, and I for sure kind of have that natural curiosity now at the back of my mind telling me to go back and take another look. Those few complaints aside though, look, really enjoyed it. I've played a lot of intensive games recently, and I think the runtime here suited its style perfectly. This is not designed to challenge you, it's designed to allow you to enjoy, and in that sense, I think it absolutely succeeds. Visually then, it's decent for sure, but let's cut to the chase here. It definitely cuts some corners for the Nintendo Switch. Predominantly, pixelation in some of the surroundings is apparent, and then there's also noticeable popping as rock formations gradually kind of grow in front of you the further into the game you get. Not terrible at all, but just noticeable, and I wanted to kind of get that out of the way. The thing is, I really like its representation of the ocean. They keep it simple, a blue washes over the screen, but they use shading to signify depth, and I think it really worked. It could have been argued more maybe movement with the water is needed, maybe something from the rebreather, but I don't know, I thought it reflected what it needed to, and I particularly appreciated the scale of the whales, the other sea life around you, and also then the animations for our swimming. I thought it was just all incredibly fluid. On board the sub then, it for sure drops a little bit in a sense of, you know, its textures and its detail, but it does its job, and I enjoyed exploring this smaller location. Audio finally, and in Dive, expect a whole lot of sea life sounds and song, and it's clearly been created to reflect a realistic environment. It then uses sound effects to reflect the added pressure. This is all then backed up with an ambient sound field that absolutely suits the location. Aboard the submarine then though, surprisingly, they've used a licensed soundtrack which you can freely listen to, including artists like Toki Monster and the Flaming Lips, which I was particularly impressed with. For the few out there that might consider streaming the game as well, it actually has a streaming option that removes all licensed music, which I know that's kind of definitely a small kind of audience out there who are really curious about that, but it's for sure appreciated. So the final verdict in Beyond Blue, I really enjoyed it. A bite-sized, relaxed experience that takes us into the ocean and asks us to explore, and that for me, it's instantly appealing. It throws in some educational elements as well, but bakes it into the gameplay enough that it doesn't feel out of place or forced, rather a natural part of this world's storytelling. The gameplay and controls then, solid. There's something I've always really enjoyed when a game gives you that full 360-degree motion, and they absolutely succeed here. Issues though, for some it's going to be too short, as I said, and then graphical popping and a few restrictions in that exploration, they feel a little out of place. Now I'm not saying again, like, let me swim endlessly, that would make no sense, that's completely understandable, but at least let me peek my head above the waves, let me admire truly how, out there we are. Overall though, look, a good 7 out of 10 from me. Diving based games, they are few and far between, let's face it, and I think it's a great addition to what is a limited library. I really hope we get to now see more from this team though as well, because they have this great grasp of tying it all together with some simplistic but effective storytelling. Will you be adding this one to the library then, or are you holding onto that cash? A shout out then to the patrons of the channel who are just going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.